Welcome back to the land of origins. Let me ask you a simple question. Ethiopia is a very old country. It used to touch the Red Sea. So how did Ethiopia lose its way to the sea and become landlocked? Did someone betray Ethiopia? Was it a mistake? Or did it just happen slowly over time? And why does something that happened more than 100 years ago still matter to every Ethiopian today? You might know that Ethiopia does not have a seacoast now, but not many people know how this happened or why it is so important today. Stay with us until the end. This story is not just about borders. It is about who we are, about power, and about how one decision changed everything. Let's travel far back in time. The Axumite Empire was a strong and important kingdom. It was in the north of what is now Ethiopia and Eritrea. Its port, called Adulis, was near where Massawa is today. It was a busy place where people traded with other countries. People traded goods from Africa, India, and the Roman Empire through Ethiopia. The Axumite Empire was so powerful that Roman coins have been found in its cities. Greek writers said Axum was one of the greatest powers of its time. Axum was not just a kingdom in the mountains, it was also a kingdom of the sea. Ethiopia's connection to the Red Sea was not only about land, it was a big part of its importance in the world. Now let's move forward to the 1800s. Emperor Johannes IV was the ruler of Ethiopia from 1872 to 1889. He controlled most of the land that is now called Eritrea. He fought hard to protect the north from enemies like the Egyptians, Ottomans, and Mahdists. He also tried to keep control of important ports, such as Massawa and Zula, but Johannes faced problems from foreign enemies and from fighting within his own country. When he died in battle in 1889, things changed very quickly. Now, things get a little confusing. Many people in Eritrea do not believe that Ethiopia used to own the coast. The Red Sea coast had its own leaders and sultanates. The people there ruled themselves in their own way. These coastal areas were not really part of the Ethiopian Empire. Their connection to the highlands was weak and often argued about. So, when the Italians started taking over the area in the 1880s, starting with Assab in 1882, and then Massawa in 1885, there was no strong Ethiopia to protect all the land. From the Eritrean point of view, Italy did not take the coast from Ethiopia. The Italians just moved into places where Ethiopia was not really in control. This old disagreement still causes arguments today. After Emperor Johannes died, Emperor Menelik II became the leader of Ethiopia. In 1889, just a few months later, Menelik made a deal with Italy. This deal was called the Treaty of Wuchale. There were actually two different versions of this treaty. The version written in Amharic, the Ethiopian language, said Ethiopia could ask Italy for help if it wanted to. But the Italian version said Ethiopia had to be under Italy's control. When Menelik learned about this trick, he refused to accept it. He fought back and won a big victory against Italy at the Battle of Adwa in 1896. But even after winning, Menelik did not take back Eritrea. Why? He thought it was more important to keep his power strong in the Ethiopian highlands than to fight again for the coast. Some people say Menelik believed Eritrea was already lost, and he did not want to make the European countries angry. Others think he made a smart choice to keep Ethiopia free at a time when many countries were being taken over. Whatever the reason, this choice left the Red Sea in Italian hands, and Ethiopia without a way to the sea. This decision changed the future for both Ethiopia and Eritrea. Many years later, Eritrea was ruled first by Italy, then by Britain. Italy lost control of Eritrea, and Britain took over. But no one knew what would happen to Eritrea next. In 1952, the United Nations decided that Eritrea would join with Ethiopia in a federation. This meant Ethiopia controlled the Red Sea coast again, including the ports of Assab and Massawa. For the first time in many years, Ethiopia had access to the sea again. Trade started up. Ethiopian ships sailed from the ports. It was a hopeful time. Ethiopia was a sea power again, even if only for a short while. But this unity did not last long. In 1962, Ethiopia ended the federation and took full control of Eritrea. This started a long period of fighting. The fighting lasted for 30 years. In 1993, Eritrea finally became an independent country. When that happened, Ethiopia lost its access to the sea again. At that time, Ethiopia was led by the TPLF. The TPLF and EPLF had fought together to defeat the Derg regime. After the Derg collapsed, the TPLF took power in Ethiopia. And soon after, Eritrea held a vote for independence. The new Ethiopian government accepted the result and officially recognized Eritrea as an independent country. The Ethiopian leaders said having a seaport is good for trade and business. But they also said Ethiopia does not need a seaport to grow and succeed. They believed Ethiopia could still become strong without a coast. They thought good roads, railways, and friendly neighbors could help the country. For them, a seaport was useful, but not something Ethiopia must have. They believed Ethiopia could find other ways to do well without the sea. For many people in Ethiopia, this felt like a big loss, like quietly saying goodbye to the Red Sea. Even today, some Ethiopians think the country should have tried harder to keep the port of Assab. But others believe that peace and working together with neighbors is better than having a coastline. Ethiopia is now the largest country in the world without access to the sea. More than 95% of everything Ethiopia buys and sells goes through the ports in Djibouti. This costs Ethiopia a lot of money. Ethiopia must make deals with other countries to use the port, pay fees to store goods there, and sometimes face political problems. Because of this, Ethiopia cannot grow its economy as much as it wants. It also has less influence in the region. Even today, the issue of getting access to the sea is still a big problem between Ethiopia and Eritrea. Today, Ethiopia is looking for new ways to reach the sea. One idea is to work with Somaliland and use the port at Berbera. Ethiopia is also building dry ports and railways to help move goods more easily. They are even planning to have a navy, even though Ethiopia does not have a coastline. But none of these things can truly bring back what was lost: Ethiopia's old and special connection to the Red Sea, which was a big part of its history. The day Ethiopia lost the sea was not just a moment in history. It changed everything. Even today, it shapes how people trade, who they are, and how the country works. But this story has many parts. There were kings, people from other countries, freedom fighters, and many big decisions, some good, some bad, and maybe, just maybe, the sea was not lost forever. In general, Ethiopia didn't lose the sea through war, but through political decisions. It happened in two key moments. First, in the late 1800s, when Emperor Menelik II allowed Italy to take control of Eritrea. It was a political decision, meant to protect Ethiopia's independence, but it came at a cost. Then again in 1993, after the fall of the Derg. The new government, led by the TPLF, accepted Eritrea's independence. But here's what many forget. They didn't negotiate long-term access to the Red Sea. No port deal, no shared coastline. Ethiopia became landlocked, not through war, but through choices. And ever since, the country has had to depend on neighbors for trade and access to global markets. But today, as alliances shift and the region changes, could there be a new way for Ethiopia to return to the sea? Only time will tell. Subscribe to The Land of Origins to hear more stories about Ethiopia and the Horn of Africa. When we understand the past, we can help build a better future.